Good afternoon, everyone. Today is July 5th, 12 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Central. In this podcast today, we have Byron Blanford, based in Seattle, Washington, and Mihir Shah, based in Plano, Texas.
Yeah, man, I'm really glad to have connected with a longtime friend. Yeah,
Yeah,
man, we
same here,
met
man.
we met at a networking event. It's interesting, man. It's crazy how that really transcend depending on intention and the focus you have on it. Yeah, I'm thankful.
Yeah, me too. I'm really glad we met. I think it was our friend Alex's house party that was back in 2019.
Yep.
And yeah, it
He
was
just moved
really,
back.
yeah, he just moved to his new condo. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Cool.
That was
So
a special time. That was a special time for sure.
yeah, the world was a lot different before 2020, but it was definitely very eventful, and we had a blast. And I'm glad we exchanged contacts because now we've done some projects together, and I feel like we have very good conversations about business and being an entrepreneur in general, which a lot of people aspire to be these days. But people go through day-to-day struggles, and it's all about like finding your groove and finding the right friend or someone who you can partner up with and make things happen. So it's a pleasure to do this podcast series together. And we can start with introductions. I can introduce myself first, and then you can go next. Um, so my name is Mihir Shah, and I am currently the founder and CEO at a company called Offsite Team. Offsite Team is a virtual assistant matchmaking firm. We focus on hiring freelancers from developing countries and matching them with entrepreneurs based in the US who could benefit from outsourcing as well as scale their business and save on operating costs. So that in a nutshell is Offsite Team. We are headquartered in Seattle, Washington, and then shortly later, I moved to Texas. So I'm currently in the process of also establishing a business presence here. So that is my introduction.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, it's always good to be held to that standard, man. And I think when we created these things, we wanted to change, right? And
Yep.
so myself, Byron Blanford Jr., artistically, I go by Bagua B. Um, and my capacity really goes in a lot of different directions. Most currently, I'm the active creative director and CEO of the HF International Media Group, as well as the um, creative designer and operations manager for Hetepu. HFIMG is a business development entity that really does a lot of things from the range of consulting to having services that help optimize business in terms of strategy, operational efficiencies, and making sure that the things that we create are transferred to the people we want them to be to. So we're effectively creating educated individuals and corporations that are building sustainable wealth. That's a real big model for us. Food, clothing, shelter, water, and energy are really where HFIMG focuses our efforts. And one of our first projects is Hetepu. Hetepu is a clothing house that's really geared towards providing a platform for artists to be able to present their art on clothing, as well as keep a creative and equitable process within that. So being able to make sure that their art is held to a high standard, and we create a standard of efficiency, a standard of um, like engagement with our community. And Hetepu has really been great because the concept came from me just wanting to make my own clothes. So within that, one of the artistic ways that I was able to express myself was through the clothing. I also do ebook authoring or just book publishing in general through HFIMG and Bagua B. Just being able to be an example to share with others that you can actually create an equitable system and express yourself in the highest degree. So that's really just an introduction to me. I'm a father, a husband. I do this for my family, which is really a really great way for me to have an undying battery, which I think was necessary for me. There's a lot of things that I came to through the process of owning a business that I learned about myself that I'm entirely grateful for. And those are some topics that we're going to help share with others to see how they can benefit and at least have insight as they go on their own journey. So yeah, man, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. That was really awesome, getting to know more about like your business and the impact that you're trying to make. And I have to say the paintings in the background are amazing. So, really awesome artwork there. And,
Thank you.
So in this podcast today, we would like to talk about 4 topics that we thought of that could help people listening. They can take it to heart and do something of their own. And, hopefully we inspire some people today with what we're about to share. So we're going to talk about 4 topics. The first one is we're going to talk about time, and we're going to talk about how it is an important factor with everybody's day-to-day life and decision making. A lot of people seem to believe that time and money are correlated, that the harder you work, the more time you put in, the more your reward is, the more wealth you make. And we are going to talk about that myth. And after the first topic, we'll talk about the employer and employee mindset and why it's very hard for us individuals to break out of the golden handcuffs that we've bound ourselves to by working for someone who we don't really appreciate, such as a large corporation, and how we can take proactive measures to get out of those golden handcuffs. The next 2 topics would be about building a business using the skills that you've acquired in your career, and navigating the financial aspect of making the right decisions. So that, in a nutshell, is our topics of discussion today. So,
Yeah, and it's really hard to figure out how to start talking about these things, but we wanted to unravel the concept and the process that goes along with why would you even do this thing, why would you go from working for someone else to working for yourself? And I think that's very important. I think it's actually the reason why anyone continues to do it, because it's easy to start, but it's harder to continue because there's going to be a lot of things that come up. And we're just here to share with people that they're not alone in that process,
Yeah.
So
We've all been through, times in our lives where we've felt our lowest, and we have also been through times where we've felt our highest. And, we're gonna talk a lot about how people can build better habits, build a momentum so that they can make the best use of their time and resources, because at the end of the day, time is the most valuable asset, and it allows us to build a better life for ourselves and for our families. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, a lot of people seem to think that wealth is the most important aspect of life, but wealth is something that comes with the work you do and the time you have on earth and how you make the best use of it, use of your time. So time, in a sense, is what we all have in our lives. Some of us have less time, some of us have more time, but the quality of the work that you do with the time that you're given is what will define the rest of your life and your career. And it's very valuable because a lot of people are struggling and they don't know how to make the best use of their time. And a lot of people think that if I work very hard for this company that I'm currently working for, if I work 12-hour days, I'll get this promotion and I'll have higher income. But if you look at the grand scheme of things, people who work long hours for companies, they can only go up so much in the grand scheme of things. And those who have been able to work smarter in a smaller amount of time, those who develop systems in place that can help them save time, they can make a bigger impact if they break out of the mentality that working harder, working longer hours is directly proportional to wealth. What do you think, Byron?
Yeah, man, I realized that early on. I used to have an insurance practice, and I found that there was a difference between being busy and productive. Sometimes you just do busy work, and we built a habit of wanting to feel productive by doing busy work. And I think that's one thing that I had to break away from early on. Early on, I realized that what is that? I don't know. I don't know if it's a law or a pun or, some sort of gut shot at the concept. But if you have 2 months to complete a project, the concept of it is that you'll take the 2 months to complete the project. And if you have 2 weeks to complete the project, the concept is that you'll take 2 weeks to complete the project. And I think time is not real in the sense of how we approach life, but how we manage one another in our relationships creates an effect of what time is to us. And I think a lot of what I used to think in my younger days, which I'm still pretty young, but is that time matters. The more hours you put in, the more you get out. But it was important for me to really change that dynamic and have a paradigm shift in a way of saying the intention that I put in really changes and affect the timing. It affects how I'm able to integrate myself, either spiritually, mentally, physically, into my work. And I've created a clothing brand and a collection of about 100 plus items, products, whatever that is, pieces in less than 14 days. I did it during the trial period, if you will, and
Yeah.
that's like, that just shows you how much like time isn't real,
Yeah.
and in that same time, I was able to spend time with my family. But looking back at it, I think it's just not about how much time you spend on something. It's about the things that you spend with them. Are you fully engaged? Are you fully involved? And those things allow for you to get to another level. I think some people consider it flow. Like when you're just in a flow, you have an effective level of efficiency, awareness, creativity. Um, but sometimes we give ourselves too much time
Mhm.
and not enough intention. And so that was major for me. I didn't want to give, man, if I broke it down, I don't want to give really 8 hours, an hour for commuting there and back. So 10 hours
Yeah.
to someone else's dream, because at the end of the day, I'm going to go home and spend time with my family. And then the last 2 or 3 hours of the evening going into 2 a.m., I'm going to spend on my own practice or my own business.
Yeah.
It's good when you start off, but over time, you're going to find out that I'm giving these people time and resources, my intention.
Yeah.
Whereas you're not going to get that same value of return later on. And it was a really easy concept for me. Like, it's just like, okay, if I spend 10 hours here, I only have really maybe 7 to 8 hours that I could effectively do other stuff in my life. And it was easy for me because I was around business owners that always manage their time in a way
Yeah.
that I was able to see them, be around them, and maybe they went through different sort of stresses, but I appreciated the uh, the level of time that they were able to give to
Mhm.
certain aspects of their life. Like that was important to me, and I knew that at the end of the day, this person who's spending 120 hours for someone else and this person who's spending 120 hours on themselves, they're actually breaking even with the amount of money that they're making. So if I'm going to choose one, I'm going to choose one where like I'm navigating my own time and schedule, and people are feeling that sense of apathy. You know, it's like
Mhm.
I can go get a job, but do I want to go to the office? You know, like people care about time because they
Yeah.
want to be able to like, hey, I'm gonna go make a coffee or I'm gonna go hug my kid real quick. Like those things are starting to become integrated into the fabric of how we interact, um,
Yeah.
which is which is probably more in alignment with what we really probably need as humans. Um, we just have to navigate what it is because I can't sit here and say that everyone knows how to manage time or wants to manage their time. Some people may want to be plugged into a system that's just sharing with them the protocol and the process. So this may not be for them.
Mhm.
But within that process, we all care about time and we all want to figure out how to maximize our efforts,
Mhm.
maximize our time, you know, and keep a maximum level of like joy and happiness in our lives. You know, I think those things matter. And when they are not being given to us, like we have diagnosis of depression, we have all these other aspects of life that come along with not being able to fulfill what you want to do. And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like, how do you fulfill what you want to do in a space where you're not taught how to do that? So,
Yeah.
yeah, the great resignation that people have, man, it's definitely there.
Definitely time bound. Yeah. I like the concept, because like you said, time can be infinite, and the whole concept of time is so relative. If you're not enjoying the work you're doing, it might take you might feel like this is taking me forever. For example, if
Mm,
you're working a 9 to 5 job and you're in the office and you're not enjoying the work you're doing, you're just going to wait till 5 p.m. And in your head, you're thinking, wow, this is a long day. But if you're doing something that you really enjoy, if the quality of the work is high and it's something that appeals to you, you lose your sense of time because you get in the state of flow. And the state of flow is just something that can make humans do extraordinary things. And the more we are centered with the concept of time, the more we can get in the flow very often. A lot of people have short bursts of time in their lives where they feel like they've done very productive work, and a lot of them wonder how they were so creative in those small moments where they felt creative and they did amazing work. Um, what if you can feel that way all the time? And that's what this whole conversation is about, of how you can do the work you love and you can also feel inspired to make the best use of your time in such a way that you feel like the whole concept of time is fading away and you're in that state of mind where you need to be to deliver great results. And it could be 1 hour, it could be 10 hours, whatever the amount is. That amount may not seem significantly high or significantly low to the other person, but to
mm.
you, it could feel like an eternity. So,
Yeah, man, I've been
yeah,
there. I've been there.
yeah,
It's a tough feeling to like, it's like, dude, there's 4 more hours left in the day. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do? You know, like,
yeah,
it's a defeating feeling for sure. It's
it
not
is.
empowering.
No, it's not. And, like you said, like people work on schedules, right? Like if you have a 2 week deadline to complete a project, you're going to get it done in 2 weeks. But if someone tells you get it done in a week, you're going to reprogram your brain to organize your tasks in such a way that you can get it done in under a week. And then, you mentioned the whole concept, like the Great Resignation, right? So when the pandemic hit the world, companies had to figure out ways to cut costs, and this led to a lot of layoffs. And what happened is people were told to do the job of multiple people, and they were given shorter and shorter deadlines. Fortunately, the human brain is very capable, and it is able to complete things given the time frame that our higher ups give us. And that's why when you're working for someone else and they give you tight deadlines, you're more likely to get the work done within the deadlines, because there's a fear that if you delay the work, you're going to face negative consequences from your employer. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Great Resignation has been a big thing, a big trend in 2021, because, a year into this whole new way of working where people were doing the job of multiple people, because the companies cut costs and laid off people were doing things in shorter time frames. They were getting productive work done. However, they felt burnt out. They did not feel internally fulfilled, because they were constantly under the fear that if I don't do this properly, this will affect my career, it will affect my income, it will affect the rest of my life. And then it did get to a point where people could not take it anymore. And so they decided to resign from their jobs. And this happened to a lot of employees working for big tech companies. And they would either get another offer at a different company, or they'd work for a smaller startup because the pay was better. And people just moved to different companies because employers were not just laying off people, but they were also trying to save time. And as a result, the burden was passed on to the workforce. So yeah, it has it has a big impact on the way people live. And I think the only way to not feel burnt out is to do what you love to do. And one of the things that you can do to make that happen is starting your own business. If you start a business and center around your hobbies, your passions, what you love to do, you will never have that feeling of being burnt out, even though you're going to work long hours, even though you're going to do something that is incredibly big. You're going to spend a lot of time running or building an ecosystem that allows you to generate income. It might not feel like work to you. You may, if you have an innate sense of urgency, you may give yourself shorter deadlines, but you will be able to deliver results within those deadlines. And at the same time, you will feel fulfilled. So, yeah, what do you think of that?
I think it's about time we use technology kind of like the way it's supposed to be. Because there's very few times that we have to be in a certain place, like have to, especially in the pandemic. This time that we've experienced has kind of showed us that by force of nature. The whole reason why you even build a business is because there's a different language that goes on, taxation wise, legally. So there's a whole host of reasons why you'd want to be in a business outside of the fact that there's the time freedom, there's the financial freedom, there's the creative freedom. But the truth of the matter is that we all have something that we want to do, but maybe not everybody wants to make money on that process. The fine line that you have to figure out is everyone should effectively be a business owner, but what type of business owner do you want to be? Because there are ends that I want to just be in a creative space and not have a monetary gain from it. But within that, what people find is that they're giving their lives to a career, to a concept of who you think you are. You know, because when someone asks like, "Hey, like, who are you?" You know, "Oh, I'm a patient care coordinator." It's like, "You gonna tell me your job? The first thing is you're gonna do is tell me your job." You know, and I think that's like training. That's a trained mindset. That's
Mm-hmm.
conditioning to share like, I am my position, as opposed to I am who I am, or I am what I do, or whatever that looks like. And that just shows you that some people in that space, they can get defeated before even thinking about what they want to do. And I think that comes from a mentality of like, I don't know what to do. You know, like sometimes it's hard for people to navigate how to build a hobby or a passion and monetize it, or at least create an equitable process out of it, because we're not trained on it. It's something
Yeah.
that's like scary for us. It's like, dude, no, I don't want to do that. Like I get checks every 2 weeks. You know, like I get checks every 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
I just have to show up to this place, and it becomes kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a zombie way of thinking about things, in terms of like, you're just thinking about the process and not the vision. You know, I think it's a real delicate balance. Like, people are saying you got to have the big vision, and some people are like, you have to be process oriented. I really think the lines mesh so much,
Mm-hmm.
because every single small detail needs to be in alignment with that larger vision.
Yeah.
And that's just like corporate talk. That's like, when I'm creating a business plan, there's the goal and then there's the means to the end, right? And then how
Mm-hmm.
do we always, throughout that process, how are we calibrating this? Like, how are we making sure that this is still in alignment with what we need it to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different way of thinking about it, right? So it's like, I like crocheting hats, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so when I'm not working, I'm crocheting hats. And it's like, I make all my own crocheted hats. So now I have extra, and I can just put them on Etsy or something, or, and
Mm-hmm.
create a monetary stream. I don't even have to make extra hats. I just have 20 hats and I'm selling them for $100 each. That's effectively a creative process where you're taking the time that you already are doing something you enjoy, and just creating a small portion of it for the world to see and be a part of, because you're going to make the stuff for you. I think it's just like a really interesting way of how we navigate time, and what
Yep.
we say, like, you know it's crazy, man. Some people will go
Yep.
give their 8 hours to their work, and then they'll come home and give 3 to 4 hours to Netflix.
Yep.
And it's like, at that point, man, record yourself. Like, hey, look at me, I'm watching Netflix, and get some money off of it. If you're gonna give
Yep.
that much time to something in that space, like, we have to start understanding how to navigate the space as creators and not just consumers. Because
Absolutely.
much of what we do is just like, I want this because it makes me feel this way. Not like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to purchase this because it makes me feel this way, and I'm supporting a business, and I'm being able to promote it, and I'm being able to get, it's like, build
Mm-hmm.
on it, because that mentality is like the creative landscape that we have access to. Like, you can go be an employee. I'm not telling you can't, but when you're doing that, know about the time that you're giving to another person's dream, and then
Mm-hmm.
just figure out a way to create your own pie. Like, it's too
Yep.
easy, and you don't have to do it the way we do it, right? But
Yep.
navigate it, look, explore, like.
Yeah. And I think it may seem easy talking about it, but when you're actually in the real world doing creative stuff, it could be very hard. And unfortunately, I think one of the reasons is our academic system has failed to enable us to be creative. It has taught us to work for someone else. It has given us the employee mindset. when you are in college trying to pass your exams, you're only thinking about what you've been told to do and how I can do better at it. And that mentality is passed on when you get a job at a company and you're told what to do. You're doing everything you can. Your life is centered around your job. You're organizing your time accordingly. And that's a good thing because yes, it's part of, that's how you make your income. Work is a big part of your life. But what matters is how can you make time outside of work to build something creative, to build a passion that can help you monetize in order to help you eventually work less or, get out of that job that is burning you out and do something that you really want to do. And, touching on the employee versus employer mindset, it is a very fascinating concept. A lot of authors like Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, his book is very helpful in helping people understand the different quadrants of where employees are, where investors are, where business owners are, and where self-employed people are. And unfortunately, most of the US population and even most of the world, they are either employed or self-employed. But a very few people are business owners, a very few people are investors. And I think the whole reason behind it is it's the mindset shift. Unfortunately, most of the world is, they have been conditioned to follow the books and go to a college that allows you to get a high-paying job and graduate from there. And when you graduate from college, add that to your resume, and the resume will determine your first job. And that first job will help you land either a better opportunity for the same company or allow you to develop the skills to work for another company that's even bigger. The whole game is just going to take you to a place where you'll still be, either working for a small company or a larger company, but you'll still be doing the same thing that you're doing. And that is a challenging part, but at the same time, if you're able to make the best use of our time outside of work, and like you said, if someone enjoys watching Netflix right after they get done from work, perhaps record a video of yourself and talk about your how watching a specific series like Stranger Things impacted your thinking, impacted your life. Talk about the characters in the show. Do something creative that will allow you to add value to the world and influence other people. And if we do that, you are onto something. You can build a side hustle. For example, a few years ago, nobody thought people who would do a commentary on video games would make any money. And then Twitch came out, and look what happened. People who are doing commentary on other people playing video games, they're making good money just having a Twitch channel and getting subscribers. So it's all about finding creative ways to monetize. It is not easy. For example, I was working 2 jobs from 2017 to 2018 when I lived in Washington, D.C. I remember I used to commute 90 minutes one way to work using an Uber pool. And while I was in my Uber pool, I worked for my second job that I was doing on the side. And on my way to work, I would work for my second job, and then I'd work for my 8 to 5 job. And then when I got done my 8 to 5 job, I would continue picking up where I left off for my second job in my Uber. And then when I'd get home by 7:30, 8 p.m., I'd have 1 hour to spend time with my family, eat dinner. And then after that, I would get back to work until midnight and then go to bed and then start my day at 6 p.m. I had very little time because 3 hours of my day was on commute, 9 hours a day was on my full-time job, which was 12 hours. And then I would work an additional 3 or 4 hours in the evening before bed. But I was able to work for two companies. And eventually, when Sophia and I had to relocate to Seattle, one of the companies told me that, hey, we don't allow remote work. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to find your replacement, but we'll keep you on until we find your replacement. And I was okay with that. So I decided to, talk to my boss at my second job. And I told him that, hey, here's the situation. I need to work something out. I'm either going to find another job that will pay me well, and I can just work for one company, or I can continue doing this temporarily, but when I get another job, I'm going to have to quit for you full time. The second company that I work for saw a lot of value in me. My boss didn't care where I lived. He only cared about the results that I delivered. So he decided to meet me in the middle and offer me something that will allow me to stick to one job. And I continued working for that company since 2020, and I made a big impact for the company. But I guess the key lesson here is that having a side hustle, a second job, or a second or third stream of income is so important, because recessions in life will continue to happen every cycle. And there's a high chance that your 9 to 5 will be affected. And you have to do all you can to try to figure a way out how to break out of that chain so that you can survive off of multiple streams of income. So that, to me, I think, is the most valuable thing about the employee and employer mindset, is breaking out of those handcuffs, making time to be creative, and doing the best work you can. So eventually your creative work will become a bigger and bigger part of your life, until you just need to work for yourself. And it doesn't matter how many hours a day you put in. If you build a good enough ecosystem in place, you can certainly work lesser hours, spend more time with your family, and at the same time change the world.
Easily. I think one of the first slides that I experienced in a counseling psychology course, they say these are the qualities and characteristics that the industry leading employers are looking for new onboarding employees, or people in the career space. And immediately it threw me off, because this was like my senior year of my undergraduate degree, and I'm kind of already on this tip of owning businesses. I was introduced to the concept of businesses owning businesses from Warren Buffett, just like the concept of owning interests in other companies and being able to navigate that space and optimize your portfolio in a way. And that threw me off, because they're not training or preparing us for owning our independent psychology practice, and I'm in that space. Like, that can happen. That's something that's possible, which I understand, because maybe it was introductory level, all these things, all these excuses, right? But that was like a blatant example of the system in its entirety. Like, that's definitely what they're preparing you for. They're preparing you for a career. It's not like they're preparing you to develop like a system of alchemical sciences where you're learning how to develop your character, trade and craftsmanship. There's not necessarily that whole package, because of how it's specialized, because it's geared towards, hey, we need this position that specializes in nuclear physics, nuclear physics. And that makes sense to go to learn that specific, so it's kind of works hand in hand in a way that we're specialized. but the systems and departments and colleges are not speaking to one another
Mhm.
um, in a way that you see everything is connected, right? And the reason I say that is because sometimes people like, what was the word, confabulate. They combine the thought process of something making you money and you liking what it is, because sometimes you have to I think that's like the impetus of the employee employer mindset. Most people who build or own train manufacturing or railroad manufacturing companies, they probably don't lay railroad beams. They're probably not laying steel bars on the road. Like, just my thought process, they're probably not doing that. Maybe they've never done it, but they're owning that process. And I think that's another step of, like, when I was reading Robert Kiyosaki's Business of the 21st Century, he talks about um, just like the mindset of when you are first an employee and you go self-employed, all we do is just buy ourselves another job, right? And when we start creating the system and plugging into a system where we don't have to be there, or
Mhm.
at least need to be there, then effectively we're taking that next step into the big business owner or the investor or that different space. So it's really just like the approach to it too. Like, I don't have to like ATMs, but if I own 5 ATMs, it's like I'm making money off of that process, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's another way that people can get into it, because I know people who um, are comfortable in the space that they have. They get a comfortable means of income, and they like the
Mhm.
work that they do. It's not too taxing. There's not too much responsibility. That's great.
Mhm.
In this space, it's just creativity. It's like you don't even have to like to. I mean, I don't. I don't know. You can own property and make money off the rent. It's like, no, I don't want to do any work. Then hire someone and just have the equity built. Like, there's different ways to be creative around that process, and that's what we have to get rid of. Well, not get rid of, but at least have an awareness of,
Mhm.
because that's like the golden handcuffs. It's
Yeah.
like, if someone's like, hey, I want to offer you this job, and we have these great benefits. We offer this insurance and stuff like that. It's like, dude, I sell insurance. I sell myself insurance. It's like, that's not gonna make or break me giving you my time. And I think if more people have that awareness of, like, not being tricked and duped about, like, insurance, like, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
perfect example, like life insurance,
Mhm.
disability insurance. It's like, those are products and services that you can acquire as your own person or as your own business.
Mhm.
So those should not be the defining factors of you giving your life to someone, you signing a
Absolutely.
contract. It has to be able to give you the time, space, and growth necessary that allows you to be a complete person. Give your time to a company. That's not something I'm throwing shade at. It's just like, you need to be able to balance. All right, you're going to give me this amount of quality of life, and I'm going to provide this level of quality of life. And if those are in a way that you feel comfortable, then that's an appropriate relationship. But let's say you're burning yourself out 12 hours a day and you're getting paid X amount of dollars, and then you're not doing anything productive with it in a sense of making it make more money for you, so that in 20, 30 years, you don't have to just depend on um, government assistance or your government savings bonds, which will be hit by inflation. They'll be hit by probably two or three other market recessions by the time we're 70 something. It's like, those are things that we have to prepare for, and they're not common because we're approaching it from a consumer perspective and not from a creative perspective. Just like when you're doing the consumer world, like, there's just certain laws you don't care about. It's like,
Mhm.
but when you're on the other end of it, you're going to pay attention to those because they're affecting your bottom line for the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years. And it's a long game. It's a very much a long game. um, and I started thinking about managing that mindset when I was open to the fact of um, providing impact to the world. So my essence was coming from, hey, I want to be able to provide an example or share the inspiration to the world. So how do I do that in a package to where I create some of the equity in that process? Like, how do I send a message out and make sure that I get paid for sending that message out? Because I realized that that's always been the name of the game. The name of the game has always been, how do I provide for my family while also being able to feel fulfilled, creative,
Mm-hmm.
and inspire. Like that's, in the people that I admire, that has been very much a cornerstone. Like, how do I do the things that I love and help out in a way that's profound without feeling totally burnt out and defeated? Like that's just matters to me. And
Yeah.
I didn't see that you can really affect that change as only an employee. Like, it's just not made for
Mm-hmm.
that. You're not given that much control because we're giving you a stipend. You're not going to have that much control of your time because I pay for your time. So
Yeah.
I own this part of your contractual time on here on earth.
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds scary, but it's like the golden handcuffs is just our approach to it. It's like someone telling you, hey man, if you quit this job or if you get fired, you're going to lose your benefits. It's like, forget the benefits. Like, what the heck? Like,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, that should not be determined whether or not you're feeling happy or unhappy. Like, and I think the medium is like fulfilling your responsibilities, paying your bills, whatever, all that. I'm not telling you to just quit your job and do all those things, but don't be afraid to quit your job.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to transition. Like, though, it's the fear that stops people in the first place. They're just like, no, I don't want to. Like, I'm comfortable. Like, I got bills to
Yeah.
pay. It's like, dude, you're always gonna have bills to pay unless you flip the script. You got to flip the script. Why don't you
Yeah.
have bills that people need to pay? It's like, you need to be sending out invoices instead of receiving them. Like, it's a cool kind of paradigm shift in that way. And like, one of the major contributors for me was self-development. Like, that stuff matters so much. You have to work on unconditioning everything that we went through. And one book that
Mm-hmm.
I definitely am a fan of is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. My background is neuroscience, so it's kind of in that lane of a scientific approach to like thought processes and mindfulness and goal setting and like changing your sense of being. That
Mm-hmm.
has to be cornerstone when we're approaching like a new way of thinking. It's life by design. Like, you can't
Mm-hmm.
blame anyone else. It's just, you just have to optimize your process.
Absolutely. And if there's anyone that put the golden handcuffs on themselves, it's us. Why do you think companies can get away with making people sign contracts and people being loyal and committed to them? Well, that's because we've programmed ourselves to be comfortable, and it is part of our defense mechanism, not to get out of our comfort zone. The moment we get a paycheck, they say getting a paycheck is as addictive as heroin, because the moment you get your paycheck, you have that sense of fulfillment that, hey, I can pay my bills for this month, I can pay my rent. However, you will never be happy by just receiving a paycheck. Happiness has to come from making time for yourself and self-development. I really like the Maslow's hierarchy pyramid because it gives you the different steps on what it takes for every individual to be self-actualized. And you need your basic necessities like food, clothing, shelter. And I think once all your necessities are met, you have the time to do fulfilling work, and you feel fulfilled overall. If your needs are not being met, you're not being fulfilled. And unfortunately, working for a job will never get all your needs fulfilled. It will get some of your needs fulfilled. You will get that paycheck. You will be able to pay for your rent. You will be able to pay for your bills. But the moment that income stops, you're going to be tested. And when life tests you, you're going to do all it takes to figure out a way to save yourself. And that's when people do their best work. When people are tested, they end up doing beautiful things in life. When people were laid off during COVID, so many new business owners came to place in this world, and a lot of people were fed up, and they're like, you know what, I want to do my own thing. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be controlled by someone telling me what to do all the time, and them not valuing the work I do because I spent 10 hours on this proposal and nobody gave me any feedback on it. We constantly feel like it's important what other people think and what others' opinions are. But when we constantly worry about that, we lose our own internal voice. And I think the whole goal is, we're not telling you guys, everyone in this world, we're not telling you to quit your job. We're not telling you that you should not work for someone, but we are telling you that make time in your life for self-development. Because if you do make time in your life for self-development, you will be able to build a system that takes you out of the day-to-day routine that you are stuck in, that is not adding any value to your life, that is not adding any value to your happiness. So the moment we get out of our comfort zones, we can do wonderful things. And one of them is investing time and finding ways to monetize from it by building a system, by putting things together and connecting the dots. And no matter where you work for, you're never going to see the whole picture. They don't want you to see the whole picture. They only want you to focus on what you're good at, and the rest is going to be taken care of someone else who's going to focus only on that aspect of the task. And that's how companies distribute power and responsibility amongst different people. So nobody gets to see the whole picture except for the person on the executive board, most likely the CEO, who would see the vision of the company. So the goal is to, be someone who can see the entirety of what they're building, and it's a fun environment to expose yourself into. This brings us to what I can do outside my job that will allow me to develop the skills to monetize. What can I do? There's so many things you can do. But as a starting point, having an idea and a vision is important. And then once you have an idea and vision, and once you have something jotted down in your notebook, or it could be a spreadsheet, could be a document, the next step is to think about what I can do to make this into a reality. And that would be what we will be discussing is, what can you do to build a system? In order to build a system, I think the first thing you need to do is purchase a domain in an area of interest that appeals to you the most. For example, if you're about to start a company in the manufacturing space and you want to build a product, maybe look into a domain that will help you own the copyright of that product that you're trying to build. So if it's a name, invest in purchasing that name and making it your own. And once you have that, you can then do other things to make your idea into reality. The next step after you purchase a domain would be to build a website, or it could be building a blog or a vlog, but create something that is authentic and make it your own. And then you can eventually add things onto it. So
Yeah, when it comes to the skills necessary, man, um, it's gonna take some research. It takes time to develop an understanding of where you need to start. And what you're alluding to is more so of like getting your footprint. You have to get your footprint down. And one thing I learned was I procrastinate heavily. So when I need to get something done, I have to send it now. Like when I think about it, I have to do it right now.
yeah.
Right. And getting a domain is an example of just doing something right now that costs 3 to 4 to 5, maybe 10, $12. But it's like getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
It's like putting a bookmark on a thought. Because when you do something like that, first off, you should be navigating the different types of systems you can build.
Mhm.
And once you're navigating these different types of systems you can build, you understand which ones are active and which ones are passive. Which ones require my attention, my presence, and which ones just require my resources. Because when you navigate that, effectively, the buying of the domain is like a foot stamp on your branding process. And the product, service, tool that you're providing can range from whatever you want it to be. It can be yoga mats, it can be whatever you want it to be. But the terminology and the process of putting a bookmark on your thought and allowing for you to navigate the type of system you want, I think is vital. Like a brain activity that I did when I started off was I just said, let me write down 100 different skills that I have. Now let me write down 100 different things that I enjoy the presence of or like being around. Now let me write down 100 different concepts and names that I can use to help cross-reference building the pattern. Like I'm big on brainstorming, and I use it as like a muscle, because some people say like, oh, I don't know what to write about. I don't know what to write about. Well, so I'm gonna write down 60 different things, and I'll choose one of the 60. Like and I have 60 different options now that I can write 60 different pieces with. It's like you have to use your approach like like you're training. And these skills can be developed. Like that's crazy to think about. Like you can actually develop skills. Like I don't know how to code, but I can learn. I didn't know how to build a website, but I built one. So now that's a skill that I put forward. And now it's not just me building the skill towards buying my website and building a clothing brand with it. It's the process that I'm able to market to others and say, I can do this for you. Because I realized like I love doing it for myself, but I also love providing the consultation and sharing with others like, hey, this is maybe how you should tweak yours versus how I approach mine. Or what is your marketing plan and what do you want to be able to provide to your client? What message do you want to share with them? And how do you make sure the system is making sure that that vision, mission, and approach is all in alignment and kind of like working together in an integral process? Like there's some integrity there. You learn those things through the process of development, I found, right? So it was really like I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I'm looking at hosting, when I'm looking at like what is a domain. But when I started realizing, I did this exercise, I wrote down the 60, wrote down the 60, and wrote down the 60 for the ideas, the concepts, and skills that I can provide towards this mission and vision that I want. And then from there, you develop skills and then you start putting those skills in your portfolio. Like was a huge shift for me because um, that's what like companies pay for. Companies
Yeah.
pay for the creative management. They pay for the consultation. And so you're building skills on skills. And as long as you know how to say that as long as you know how to pretty up a position in a way that you're saying, I gained this valuable trait from this position that I learned, or from this position that I held. I gained this valuable trait from this process that I did for my own business. Effectively, it's allowing for you to create a canvas, paint on the canvas, and have that product, or at least that expression of thought, be applied in the corporate space and the creative space. Because I'm not, everything that I do and everything that you're doing, it's not like we can't take that to a company and say, look at the value that I created on my own. So you're actually feeding both. You're allowing for
Hmm.
yourself to be able to be an incredible, valuable asset in the corporate world, but then on the creative space, you're still holding on and retaining that equity, that understand intellectual property, um, and inspiration. You're still retaining that on your individual level. So when you're building these skills, one thing I found out with my clothing brand was you have to get the footprint down and then you
Hmm.
build the skills, and I think it's a whole different concept versus how we do, which is like we build the skills and then get our footprint down.
Hmm.
So we get the education certification and then we get the job and we feel good about it, as opposed to like planting the flag and figuring out how you're going to build this thing. It's like, yeah, we're going to plant this and something's going to get built here. And that's crazy to think about. I was meeting with a hotel owner on the island where my family's from, and he's a really good family friend. And he used to have just one level in the hotel. It's like very simple, like, motel type of thing. Um, but he said I needed to build a second level for my place to provide a different experience for people. And he didn't know where to start. And so he put his footprint down. He said he just built a stairway. And the stairway didn't go to anywhere. It just went to the second level of nothing.
Yeah.
But with that footprint, he built the skill of like envisioning, now I have to do this. This
Hmm.
has to be done now, or else it's going to look incomplete.
Yeah.
And so he built the stairway, and then he started building the post for the stairway, the first post, then the next post, and then the next post. And then you build the floor platform. Um, and he built a system by planting his flag and making a footprint, and then effectively the system is built to optimize the vision. Like it's built to get towards the vision, and it's very different. And I feel like he was in that position from not being an employee. That was not someone telling him like, hey, you have to do it this way. He just said,
Hmm.
I have a vision and I want it to get done,
Hmm.
and I'm going to make a footprint and then I'm just going to follow through. And now he has a 2-level hotel, very like one of the best places on the island in terms of like a local presence and the energy there. And that was different. That was like him creating an effective process, but he had to like jump off the ledge first and then build his parachute when he was in the air. And I think that's like, it's reverse engineering. That's
Yeah.
that's what I enjoyed about it. It was, you know, I don't know how to build a website yet, but I'm going to learn. And then after that process, I'm going to be able to provide that on a portfolio basis and share that with the world, whether that's
Hmm.
a future contractual employer or whatever that is. Um, that was like monumental. And you're not always going to have the skills that are required, right? You have to
Hmm.
develop those skills. But it is a reverse engineering way of thinking, in a sense of sometimes you have to like make the promo video before the album. One of my
Yeah.
favorite rappers says that, Logic. Like he says, like, you just gotta like, he made the promo video before, the promo song before the album. And
Yeah.
that's effectively how we have to approach this world. Like, you're not always going to have the skills necessary, but you have to start the footprint. You gotta
Yeah.
put your foot down somewhere and be able to say like, this is the visionary path that I'm going to take,
Hmm.
and then I'm going to build the skills around that are necessary, you know.
Absolutely. And I think the key takeaway from this topic is self-navigate. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you start. The first step is a footprint. Could be purchasing a domain, but how you self-navigate
Or an
and
Instagram page, man. Like, dude, like
yeah.
you I was thinking about that when you're talking about that.
Hmm.
The domain, it's like having an Instagram page saved, even just creating a page and putting one picture up, like that is,
Hmm.
you're creating an intellectual footprint. It's like that
Yes.
stuff matters, you know, because
Hmm.
imagine the person who bought the rock. Like if you it not bought it, but like you had the rock as your IG name,
Hmm.
like that man's gonna have to pay you for something. He's gonna have to pay you for that. Like you could just create a whole business about just like coming up with the best names on Instagram, you know, and selling them to people. So yeah, I mean that definitely. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's something that I thought about. I was like,
Yeah.
you don't even have to buy it. Just go
Yeah.
to Instagram, you know, and create a
Hmm.
name because you can only have that one name, you know. And
Absolutely.
if you put that timestamp down, you know, like you're putting your foot forward towards your vision, you know, and that's
Yeah.
easy, effective ways to get that stuff, you know.
Yeah. And I'm glad you interrupted me there because it actually reminds me of this recent story that happened. So, when Facebook changed the name to Meta, there was actually an Instagram user with a big following under the name Meta, and Instagram actually deactivated their account and took that name. But that person was put that story on social media, went viral. I think they must have gotten something out of that. So you never know,
Like
who's gonna,
compensation, they got
yeah,
paid
some
for it or
kind of
something.
compensation for it. That's what I believe, and I hope they did get compensated for it
Yeah, they
because
should, dude. It's like
yeah,
what?
it's their
Yeah.
name, their footprint. Um, so yeah, it's really fascinating, right? And I think that's why people are very there are just so many NFT enthusiasts in this world because it's such a fascinating concept that your
Mm.
idea matters. And once you create a product out of it, it's yours. And with the NFT and the smart contracts, no matter who implements your idea into their own business, you're still going to get some kind of royalties from that contract. Um, so yeah, put something out there in the world, and someone will either acquire it, or it could be for your own good. It could be something that tells you, hey, I need to get back into this project that I just started, right? And then everything that comes after that is just pure hard work and self-navigation. Once you build a brand, once you build a logo, once you build an Instagram page or a domain, the next step for you to do is to build an online presence out of it. Could be building a website, or it could be creating posts on social media to create awareness and impact. And the beauty of starting a company is that there's no textbook that can tell you how to become a successful business owner. It's all about trial and error. It's about giving yourself room to fail. And it's about watching free content on the internet. It could be a YouTube video, it could be an article from someone who inspires you. But whatever you're doing, the more you spend time self-navigating, the more it is possible for you to build that system that will eventually make that big difference for you in life, where you feel like you're fulfilled, you're adding value, and you can think about how I can use that system to generate income for myself, and how that can help me get out of the situation that I'm in. And that is something that is profound and essential.
Yeah, I mean that's why when I created Hetepu, alongside it, I also created the HF International Media Group.
Mhm.
And the reason I did that was because the long-term vision was, you know, essentially we're going to be our own media house. If I'm doing the media management and marketing management for all these different companies, effectively we're going to be the cornerstone of that, whether that's like being our own TV channel, or podcast series, or even like creative platform where other artists house their works. That needed to have a timestamp. It needed to
Hmm.
have a bookmark on that thought process, because what comes in with that now that I'm learning to navigate is kind of like our next topic, which is more so the financial aspect, and learning even why this even matters in this space, and how it matters with the
Hmm.
legal language and financial language that we're immersed in.
Hmm.
And so this is going to be something that matters regardless of the business type that you choose, the business product you choose. Um, Kanye said, he said, artists don't need managers, they need CEOs. And effectively, I've been learning that process for myself, by myself, because everyone can have art, or everyone can have a way that they express. But at some point, there is a monetary process, there's an intellectual property process that goes along with it. And in the long run, the artists that have the business savvy, the
Hmm.
understanding of how to effectively keep the money that I'm making,
Hmm.
and make that money make more money.
Hmm.
The people who've been able to do that effectively are the Jay-Z's, are the Ye's, um, of
The Dwayne
Nick
Johnsons.
Nick Cannon,
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle. Like, I'm assuming that the artistic expression, the ability for the artistic expression, comes from the ability to be able to at least navigate and master the financial aspect of your decisions.
Yep.
Because there are some artists that are probably 20 times better than the people that I've mentioned, or entertainers that are, or activist community figures that are way more profound in their message and in their approach than the people I just mentioned. But the financial aspects keeps those people in the conversation, because at least they're able to like maintain that level of being there, not going bankrupt, not being,
Hmm.
socially ousted and politically ousted or exiled, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I found that early on, the people who've wanted to create the change have either been silenced, or their voice has been amplified
Hmm.
by the decisions financially that they've made. Because Dame Dash kind of talks about it too. But like, when people are broke, they're gonna do what broke people do, and that may be selling your highly valued possessions for a lower price, because you need the money for now. And it's like, when people are broke, that's a mentality. That's like poverty, or no, not broke, but when people are in a poor state of mind,
Hmm.
it's a level of training and exposure. You know, if you don't know what's possible, you're not going to do the process that is necessary to get kind of like the vision and goal that you want for you and your family. I think that's so vital, and I think it's kind of like down talked. Like, nobody wants to talk about the money aspect, or like
Hmm.
they want to throw it to the side. But in reality, the currency is really what the financial aspect comes to. Like, the currency, the conversation of how goods and services are exchanged for um, a uniform code of like commerce, like that, us not giving value to that is why we find ourselves in a way of like middle class. What do they say? Like, the middle class poverty
Yep.
standard is rising. The people who
Yeah.
are in the middle class, and what middle class means, and that still being poor, or in a level of like systematic poverty, is like,
Hmm.
is growing, because these conversations don't happen on a regular basis. It's growing because
Yeah.
they're not valued in the same way from a corporation standpoint, or at least
Hmm.
a what is they called, a creditor standpoint. we're
Hmm.
looking at it from the debtor standpoint in a way that we are always paying interest on money that should be ours. So it's like we're not only just not getting that money, but we're actually losing it. We're losing the value of what that money could even buy.
Hmm.
And that comes from our navigation of the financial world. Like it matters
Hmm.
so much. It matters, like, wars have been started and stopped because of books. And I'm talking about financial books. Like if the accounts make sense, like some things don't make sense to do anymore. Or maybe some things happen as a result of a market push towards,
Hmm.
you know, making something more profitable during that time. So when it comes to every aspect of our lives in America, a lot of the decisions that are made around us are made on a monetary sense. And we're approaching these things from kind of only an emotional, social sense, which we have to be able to integrate all these things together.
Hmm.
Because once we master that understanding, then we can't be tethered by it. We can't be pushed and pulled and like, oh, I don't. The stress comes from us not knowing how to approach it, how to
Hmm.
evaluate it and provide a solution to it. Because if you knew what to do, it would just be a response, not a reaction. You would say,
Yes.
oh, this alert happened. This process needs to happen. That's kind of like why AIs have that upper edge, because they're not thinking about how it made them feel. They're just thinking about getting the process done. And we have to have that approach when we have this new level of thinking. It's a new way of being, what we're kind of sharing and that we're being introduced to and immersed in, which is like building those skills that are helping get to the vision that we want to get to. Um, but that is going to take like us becoming another person. You
Hmm.
actually have to like you have to become that now. Like it's not like, hey, I want to work to get to this public speaker. Like, no, you're a public speaker now and you're building your skills around how to, fortify and optimize your expression and the engagement that you have. Which is a different way of thinking about it. Because if you're saying I need to work to get to something, you're not it yet, as opposed to
Yeah.
I am this and I'm building my skills to develop it, in a more profound way. So I definitely think that the financial aspect is like, it's something that you're already playing the game in. So you might as well know how to play the full game, right? And that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, financial literacy is very important. It is a skill that can be acquired by exposing yourself and just getting out of your comfort zone and not just doing the bare minimum, but also understanding the mathematics behind every decision you're making to make calculated decisions and to take calculated risks. And that's why we brought the topic of these famous people like Kanye West, Dwayne Johnson, and many others. Um, Unlike other celebrities who just make their living off of entertainment, there have been even recessions in the music and entertainment industry where a lot of creative people have gotten bankrupt, not because they don't have enough skills. It's because they didn't have the financial knowledge to monetize. And that's why a lot of famous celebrities today, like Kevin Hart, they have their own brand in addition to being an entertainer. It could be their own tequila line, or they started a business. They taught themselves how to be financially literate, even though they're creative people. And something to do with finances can be very boring for a person who is very creative because it's not intellectually stimulating for them. But it is a necessary knowledge to excel in life. And once you have that knowledge, you can monetize from it. You can build brands, you can connect the dots, you can connect your passion for tasting incredible coffee varieties into a blog that people will actually subscribe to so that they can also learn how to be a coffee sommelier. So that's just an example, but navigating financial aspects of decision making is very important. And when I started Offsite Team, Before I invested in creating an LLC, I landed a client who would pay me first, and I used that money to purchase the rights for the business and my business license. And then once I did that, I strengthened my knowledge of how I should price my customers, and created my services based on doing some kind of market research and competitive analysis on how much the other competitors are charging. Because if I would charge my clients a certain fee that did not reflect what my value or my services are worth, I knew I'd be in big trouble. So I did end up failing a few times before I was able to hit the nail on the head with pricing. And I think that's the fun part of the process, is giving yourself time to fail. So if you're not sure about something, maybe use your best guess as a starting point, but definitely do what it takes to research harder and figure out if this is the right thing you're doing. I also do not encourage spending a lot of time into R&D, and if you spend too much time into R&D, you will not create a product. You'll just spend all your time doing the R&D. But if you're doing a combination of both, and you're spending more time on creative stuff, and you are also implementing R&D while you're doing or creating a system, you can get to places. So the utmost importance of when I started Offsite Team was trying to figure out what value am I adding to my clients and what I should charge them. And once I was able to figure that out, it did get a lot easier for me. So early on, having some financial knowledge is definitely very essential to find a way and price correctly how to effectively monetize from the value that you're trying to add, whether it is selling a product or selling your services. So
yeah, the R&D, man, it's a delicate balance, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get drowned in like just learning so much. Just like, you just gotta pull the trigger sometime, take the shot, shoot the three.
Yeah.
Like, you just gotta shoot the three, and that's a big leap, man. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you gotta build the parachute when you're in the air, man. And that's kind of how it is.
Yep.
But with that, it's calculated. So I appreciate like using, like, hey man, use someone else's dollar to help you start it off.
Yeah.
Get creative around, like, don't tell yourself you don't got the money for it. Like, figure it out. Like, it's a business. If that's your first challenge. Like, how do you get funding? 101. And I think like, small things, they lead to big things. And it just takes like a process and an approach, and you put that system into play, and it starts working, man. It's kind of like the field of dreams. You build it and they'll come. But you got to do it.
Yeah, there's two ways to approach this. You either be very frugal from the very start and get your first client before you build a business and use that money to open your LLC. Or if your idea is big enough where you need an investment, then it would be time to sharpen your financial knowledge, your confidence, so that you can pitch to VCs to get that funding, to borrow the money to make your idea into a reality. And a lot of people think borrowing money is a bad thing because I'll be in big debt. But in business, debt is always good if you're using the debt to create a product and add value to the world. If you're adding value and you are on a positive trajectory, I would encourage you to borrow as much money as possible to make your dreams come true. And if you're running a company that does not need much investment, maybe you can do the frugal way and self-navigate through steps in the way and build a product, and eventually increase your pricing down the line when you feel like you've done enough to add value, so that the value you're adding is more than uh, you know, how much your services cost. And if you are doing that, then you may not need to borrow money. But yeah, there's definitely two ways, maybe three ways. You can have your life savings and use your own investments to invest in a
Yeah, take out
company.
the retirement account.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
drain out your
clear.
retirement account. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a fan of other people's money. The whole concept, like banks, fractional reserve banking is kind of like what inspired me for that, for sure. Like, the whole game is not using your own money. So if
Yeah.
you can figure out how to do that in the most effective way and
Hmm.
legal way, right?
Yeah.
If you could figure out how to do that, that's a real great step. Just even
Yeah.
thinking about that, and like how do I keep more cash flow in my pocket on a monthly and annual, basis,
Hmm.
while also making sure to fulfill my obligations. And I think that's really great in using other people's money or bank money or loans or funding to be able to say, um, I'm gonna make sure that I get more per month and be able to fulfill my obligations while not being stressed out by keeping the system running. Like that's powerful for me. So,
Yeah.
if you want to be able to like be frugal, I think that works and it's helpful. Um, and being able to figure out how to use both, because you need
Hmm.
everything. You need to be able to be frugal, not be a heavy spender on things that don't really provide value for your system. And then also you need to figure out ways to amplify your presence by getting capital that you get to use and not need to like have a payment there right now. Maybe you have
Hmm.
payment terms where it's spread out over however long, which allows for you to manage your cash flow
Hmm.
effectively better, allows for you to pay employees better. And that's what really matters, man. Just being able to manage your cash flow and manage your debt really is what separates a lot of businesses that I found. Like it's crazy how it changes the game. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. I think, not a lot of people, may have a lot of financial knowledge when starting a new project, but that's something that you can build. That knowledge you can gain while you're doing it, while you're playing your own game. And, during that time, be as frugal as possible. And, once it's the right time for you, you'll know when it's the right time for you to pitch to VCs, get the extra funding, or whether take a line of credit, or whether invest some of your own money into the business. But it will eventually come to you, as you're diving deep into what you're doing and building something. So I guess the key takeaway from this very first podcast would be, do something. Doesn't matter where you start, but build a footprint first. And then once you build a footprint, do all you can to self-navigate and develop your financial knowledge. And as this unfolds, you'll be able to build an amazing product that can add value and that can help you separate yourself from everybody else and be unique in what you do. So
Man, for real though, like brainstorm, research, take your time, look and see what's even possible. Like you can I went to ATL's airport and there was Kylie Jenner's that's her name, right? Kylie, yeah, Kylie Cosmetics vending machines
wow.
in ATL's airport, dude. Like, figure out a way to get in on that. If you wear makeup, or like if you want to create your own vending machine, like
Yeah.
you don't have to. You can get creative. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. And the first step is really just wanting to be creative. Some of the other first steps are doing and taking your time with research and asking questions. Ask people who are in the space. Don't be afraid that you're not up to their stature, because you're a creator now, man. You're at that same level, and we all want to be able to share our work and feel valued. And so that's just how you need to approach life. Everyone's in that same boat, and if you can meet people in that space, they're gonna see like, oh, there's some authenticity here, and I can pour myself into you, or you can pour yourself into me. That stuff, it matters so much, but it doesn't go anywhere with just like, man, I'm gonna create this, or I'm gonna do this. Like, just do it, dude. Like, go
Yeah,
get where's your Instagram page? You know, take some pictures, post them, um, and don't feel rushed, but don't hesitate. You know, because you don't feel like you
yeah,
know what you need to do. Like, well, I don't even know what meant before what it is now, right? But now Hulu means something, right? You know,
yep,
so you could, if you bought Hulu's domain, like it's just simple stuff. You know, you just have to be creative enough to be able to um, not give up. You just
yeah.
have to be creative enough to not give up and persistent. So,
I
thank
love it,
you.
man. Yeah, thank you for, you know, making time to do this podcast with me. I think it's very fruitful and we're adding value to people's lives, and hopefully this makes people listening to our podcast puts them in a better state of mind, and they're able to pick some things from it that can help them with what they're doing.
Man,
Um,
inspiration. That's what we're here for. You know, that's what we want to be able to provide content for, dude. And you're someone who I know has created the system. Like the system is important, bro. Everyone has a business idea, but the system and the process, the connections, the team that you fortified, those are things that carry on and they transcend and they'll make your life easier because like the whole game was to scale, you know, like how do I do this and recreate it and make it bigger and do less work? You know, it's like the ultimate
yeah,
equation. And definitely, man, you're the epitome of that. So thank you.
thank you. Likewise, Byron. I think you've done some amazing things that have added value to this world, and keep doing what you're doing. And um, we'll have some more interesting discussions on our future podcasts. I believe the next podcast would be starting to fill a need, and we'll cover from each of our perspectives on what it is that allowed us to create a product and fulfill a purpose. So the next topic and the next conversation is going to be about starting to fill a need. And stay tuned because that episode's about to come out.
Yeah, man, salute.
Right? Salute.
Yes, so that was good.